is in stock. Lots of different styles to choose from. Whether you're renovating or tiling a new house, Builders Paradise has what you need. Oh, and remember, we're open all day Saturday to serve you better. Call them today at 466-4938.
Good evening and welcome to another episode of Thought That Get Results. I'm Everett Weber Herbert, and as per usual, we are here every Tuesday evening with something that at least we think is of community interest and or of some concern. And if you think that you have something which fits into that category, you'd like to find out how you can be a part of the program, well, why don't you drop us a line? Address it to the Let's Talk program in care of Vaughan Radio, P.O. Box 195, Charlestown in Nevis. Or give us a call. Our numbers are 1-869-469-1616 and or 1700. And by the way, those will be the numbers you'll use to be a part of this evening's discussion. Again, thank you all very much. This is your voice in the community, Talk That Get Results. With regard to your participation in the show, we encourage you to call in at the numbers listed, 1-869-469-1616 and or 1700. Here's a suggestion. You have a question or comment, perhaps you can get a pencil, piece of paper, write it down so that you're well organized. When we're getting on the show, you take as little time as possible so that we can accommodate as many of you as we can. We ask only, first of all, you respect yourselves and then respect others, because we'll not accept anything we deem not within our broadcast standards. But we always encourage you to be forceful with your point. You can also follow us via our transmission, also via our YouTube channel or Facebook. Follow the video stream live. This evening we've got two segments in the program. We've got a panel here with us. We're going to talk about the meals program and how it is affecting and benefiting the young people. What is the overall plan for not only the school children, the families, but the entire island and maybe across the entire Caribbean. We're very pleased to have them here this evening. What I'm going to do, though, I'm going to go to the next studio and allow them to introduce themselves, tell us why they're here, and then we'll get into the full discussion. So why don't we do that right now? We can begin with anyone.
I'd like to start. My name is Arlette Saintville, and I'm a postdoctoral researcher who's working on a project called the Improving Household Nutrition and Public Health in CARICOM project. It's commonly called the FAN project. And this is a project that is trying to improve the supply of local foods and the consumption of fresh local foods as a way of dealing with increasing obesity and overweight incidences in the CARICOM community. We're focusing on three countries: Jamaica, St. Kitts and Nevis, and St. Vincent and the Grenadines. And I am joined here by my colleague from McGill University. We're from McGill University. This project, I should say, is focused on a number of universities in the region, the University of the West Indies, as well as University of Technology, Jamaica, Cambridge University, and McGill University. So those are the four universities working together on this project and the countries that I mentioned. My colleague who's here with us, she will introduce herself next.
Good night, everyone. My name is Owasia Fair. Once again, I'm from McGill University. I'm a master's student, and my research is also focused on improving the school feeding program to benefit the children, especially with the health issues of obesity and things of that nature. And my thesis is going to focus on how farmers, smallholder farmers in Nevis, can organize to increase the consistency of nutritious foods in the school feeding program, as well as how can schools engage more with the local community to have more support in the school feeding program, so everyone in Nevis is involved in improving nutritious foods here.
My name is Sandra Huggins, and I am part of the Health Moms. My two children are on the school lunch program, which is Charlestown Primary, and that's why I'm here today.
Good night, everyone. My name is Michael Henville, and I am the executive chef attached to the school meals program under the Ministry of Health. And I am just happy to be part of this team, I should say, and part of the this whole initiative that we are doing.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Renelle Daniel. I am the school meals coordinator in the Department of Education. I'm happy to be here tonight, and happy to be a part of this team to highlight the importance of children being on the school meals program and the importance of our community getting involved in the school meals program. I look forward to the discussion that we'll have tonight.
Okay, having done all that, why don't we now begin anywhere as well with the you outline your involvement in this program and so on. And why don't we begin perhaps with talking about what it is?
Okay, well, I will start. Thank you so much, Mr. Herbert, for having us here. One of the concerns around school meals is that it is a tremendous investment that is made by any nation. And the whole idea is to prepare and develop high-quality citizens of the future. And an important part of developing high-quality citizens of the future is ensuring that they are healthy and they are well. And so what has come to the fore recently is this growing incidences of obesity and overweight in the region and across the world. And so it has put the focus on school feeding programs and the need to reform them to ensure that the nutritional content is high, and to make sure that there's lots of fresh foods in there so that the children are getting a diverse and a healthy meal. And not only that, that parents and the rest of the community can work together to support that work, because as you could well imagine, no matter how fantastic the work that will be done in the school, at the end of the day, it is only one of 3 meals that the children enjoy. So as healthy as it could be, parents need to, and the community broadly needs to support this work, because we all are interested in having healthy and well children, not only in Nevis, but in the Caribbean community.
And that's why we're so happy to have a parent here from Charlestown Primary who's been involved in the research that Dr. Saintville has been doing with the school. And I would like to hear some of what her experiences were in this study at Charlestown Primary School.
Okay. First and foremost, I would like to thank whoever had that idea for the school meal program. That was the best thing that ever happened to me. Because every morning I wake up, I don't have to worry about what my child is going to eat. They are well taken care of, and I'm glad they're eating well-balanced diet. They're eating things from the garden. They're eating healthy. And as a matter of fact, every time we go to the health clinic, my children are always healthy. So they have no problem with the weight and everything. Now, the program, when it started the research, I am very happy that when they came along, I met with the other mothers. We learned a lot from the chef. He taught us alternatives and how to prepare quick and healthy meals, which I incorporated in already what I already had. And I learned a lot from the other parents, and together it was like a motivation, because I'd started planting vegetables and fruits, and I had to increase in that and be motivated, and it has been helpful. I could say that I've been blessed, and I have been motivated, and I've never been the same again.
So a part of the research that Arlette has been doing with the school was to involve the parents and teach the parents. I think, how many persons were in that group?
Well, at the end, we got 5 that were consistent, but I think at one point 20 came aboard and saw the chef Michael put together a menu from the school feeding program at Charlestown Primary School. So they got to taste, they got to see how delicious and how quick and healthy that they themselves could make food for their children to eat, because there is a concern that children won't eat the vegetables. And so parents don't give them vegetables, and then they don't get the vegetables and the critical micronutrients that they need. So understanding that they need them, they must have them, and understanding how they can incorporate them into their ongoing meal preparation was a very, I think, important part of the activity that we had at the school. And we thank the chef for sharing that with us. And like Sandra mentioned, the other part was mothers coming together to support and motivate each other.
Yeah, and as you said before, it is a community approach. It's only one of 3 meals, and we do provide a healthy, well-balanced meal throughout our school meals program on Nevis, but it's only one of 3 meals. We have to get our mothers and our dads involved, and we were so happy that that research was able to pull in the mothers, and Chef Henry was able to work with the mothers and to teach them different ways of preparing meals. So that's one thing we know that we can copy in the future, and copy that for other schools moving forward for the school meals program. Chef Enville, would you like to say something about
Well, you know, just to touch on what Arlette said earlier, is we maybe in the future we can build on a breakfast or something like that. Who knows? Fingers crossed. But you know, with the lunch being the only guaranteed meal that we're providing for the children, we have to, and we are making sure that it's the best of quality. We're using the best ingredients, the healthiest ingredients, and first and foremost, we're using local ingredients. So I'm very proud of that we're doing that with all the schools, I must say. And you know, we are definitely trying our best. We really are, but I hope that some parents are hearing us tonight and hearing when we say that we really need them to get on board with us, and we need them in this whole initiative that we're pushing, and because we can't do that. We can't do the entire school meals program without them. So parents, we definitely need your support. Because we've had some instances where we're feeding a child lunch, and they're seeing we're introducing maybe a new vegetable that they've never seen before, but because they've never seen it before, or mom and dad has never given it to me before, then they're not going to eat it. And unfortunately we have seen that. So I'm pleading to all the parents out there, please. We need you to be a part of this, so please help out as much as possible.
But we do want to emphasize that it's not just a problem in Nevis. It's a global problem.
Yeah.
Obesity among children, among teenagers, it's a worldwide problem, and I know Arlette has some stats concerning that. But we are fighting a battle on many fronts when it comes to the health of our children and our families. And we do need to take the health of our families back into our own hands and take responsibility, as our parent here did, take responsibility for what our children are eating. And that means learning more, being willing to do things a little bit differently. To incorporate different vegetables, different ways of cooking, and just to be open to change. So,
And I think that's a very important point. A lot of parents understand the need for the cognitive and intellectual development of their children. A lot of parents invest a lot of money in sending their children to get extra lessons, a lot of time helping them with homework, and it is an investment parents are making in the future of their children. But we have to be clear, the increase in these incidences of overweight and obesity, like Renelle mentioned, it has increased significantly over time globally. And we're talking about, this was an issue 40 years ago at less than 1%, but it is now climbing in the region of 10%, and in some countries, it's in the area of 30 and 50%. I wouldn't even tell you where Nevis and St. Kitts runs, and the Caribbean generally. We're looking at obesity and overweight incidences in the range of 20 to 30%.
I've seen stats that show almost 1 in 3, which is 33% of our children are
Yeah.
either overweight or obese.
And parents, you're making an investment. You expect that investment to bear fruit. But an unhealthy child is not an investment. Because at the end of the day, you will need to take care of them if anything untoward happens. I mean, God forbid. So understanding that proper nutrition, reviewing how you do what you do to ensure that they grow up healthy is part of just understanding the time we're living in as far as the trends in food consumption are concerned. And let's be clear, you will never stop children from loving fast foods and processed foods.
And
They'll-
sweets.
And sweets. They will love it because it's tasty. And the food scientists have figured out how to make your brain love it.
Right.
But they for them to develop in a healthy way, for them to develop in a way that they can grow and flourish, we need to start reviewing and reforming what we do. And I know that might be a hard thing for some parents is sitting there saying, what? I'm not going to take away the thing my child loves. But the same way you tell them go to bed when it's too late, the same way you would tell them they've played too long a game, it's time to stop. There are some things that we have to review and to say enough and to stop.
And you know, it starts. We have to find a starting point, and one of those starting points is to sign up for the school meals program. At all public schools, the Department of Education, at all public schools, there is a school meal program offered or a meal offered at that school. So we have 7 public schools. All of those schools have a school meals program, and Cicely Brown also benefits from the school meals program at Charlestown Primary. So that's 8 public schools. We actually, in terms of stats, we actually have 976 children that we feed.
Daily.
976 children that we feed daily, and that includes the 4 preschools, the 4 public preschools, as well as the 7 public primary schools and the Cicely Brown Integrated School for children with special needs. So, and we can feed much more. We can feed actually all the children in our public school system, and we want to provide. The Department of Education is here to help our children live healthier lives, and we want to provide that one meal that's healthy. Well, one of those meals that can be used as a springboard to make all the other meals healthy. And through the school meals program, we do foresee that we'll teach parents how to provide a balanced meal, and that includes portions and portion control, and as well as the My Healthy Plate, where we make half our plate vegetables or fruits, and the other part starch and protein. And we're working with many departments within the ministry. It's not just the Department of Education. It's the Ministry of Health. It's the
Health promotion unit.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's the Department of Agriculture and the Ministry of Agriculture. We partner with Supply Office. We partner with the Fisheries, and there's so many other departments. Yes, that get involved and that want to see our community, our Nevis, move forward to be a healthier version of ourselves, or give us our children a brighter future. So I encourage you, parents, if you're listening, if you're not a part of the school meals program already, that you sign up. It's only $5 a day, or it works out to be sometimes $125 per month. But the fact is, providing a healthy meal for $5 a day doesn't compare.
You can't get that deal anywhere else in the
No,
Federation.
you cannot. You
Anywhere
cannot.
else.
And the quality of the meal is so high. I am telling you, the quality of the meal is so high. You cannot put a price tag to that. And the health outcomes that we are seeing as a result of children being on the school meals program, it cannot compare. So I hope that many more parents will realize the value of being on the school meals program. And we are working. We have a team, as Dr. Allen said, we have a team working to make our school meals program better. So even at the point that it is, even though it's right at a high standard right now, it will be even at a higher standard in a year or 2 years. And we're working to make our meals healthier and local. If we can get a steady supply of local fish, we'll incorporate that into our school meals, but which we are trying to do. And we're working with agriculture to get a steady supply of locally produced fruits and vegetables. So there are many things that are happening within our school meals program and within the Nevis Island administration to help our kids live healthier lives.
And I just wanted to touch on something that a parent told me about 2 days ago, and we met in Rams. I was picking up some groceries, and she said, Chef, my son comes home every day and he raves about the food at Charlestown. And I said, that's wonderful, that's great. And she tells me the things that he eats and everything. And I said, that's awesome. And she said, well, can you teach me some of the ways that you guys are making your meals? I said, sure, no problem. And we actually stayed there right there in the aisles of Rams, and I went through a couple of recipes with her, and she said, oh, that's easy. I said, yeah. I said, that's what we're trying to tell you guys. It's easy. It's nothing hard. We try to keep it simple and healthy and easy. A lot of parents just they tend to overthink meals, but once you have some basic knowledge of just some basic ingredients, flavoring ingredients, you can make a ton of different recipes just from a handful of ingredients. So yeah, it was good to meet her, and we chatted for a little bit right there in Rams and swapped some recipes. And she said, oh, I'm gonna go home and try these are easy. I didn't realize they were so easy. I said, yes, try them out. And I said, cook for your husband tonight, and she said, I will. So it was good to to get to touch base with those parents. It was awesome.
And there'll be many more stories like that if we just encourage our children.
Yeah.
I think that an important point I want to follow up on, which is really the team at work in preparing these meals. And I think for parents, because you don't get to go in and see, you might not fully appreciate how many people are passionate and working determinedly to ensure that your children are eating healthily, from the farmers who prepare it to the department of the marketing unit that are bringing it to the schools, to the cooks, the chef, the head cooks, the supervisors, the school meals coordinators, the principals, the teachers, the kindergarten teachers. There is a great team that are working with passion to ensure that your children are eating healthy. And for that one meal, I have seen, and based on research that we have conducted across the rest of CARICOM, the Nevis school feeding program stands out. It is one of the more I want to say it is one of the more
You can say that a little louder.
it is one of the more well put together and supported by the community school feeding programs that exist in the region. So you have a school feeding program to be proud of. If your child is not on it for a reason that is not based on something substantial, they just don't like vegetables or some other reason like that, I urge you to review, go in and see. The other thing I want to say is I have, for about a month during the end of the last semester term, we measured the amount of food waste that went into the that was thrown away. The sad thing about you sending your children to school and all these parties working to give them healthy meals, and for them to throw it because they don't fully appreciate why vegetables are important and why they need glow food for them to grow and develop well, is really a very sad picture. And I have lots of pictures of this waste. They don't know. They're young, and like somebody said, they won't eat it unless you eat it. They won't experiment unless you give them little vegetables to try at home. So the work the school is doing, no matter how good and passionate the team is, and I've spoken to them, I've seen them at work, they are passionate. They love it, what they're doing. But the benefits will not redound to your children if they don't consume and appreciate eating healthy and eating well.
Yeah.
And that's the role parents, I want to focus on your role this evening, on what you can do, what changes you can make. And I'm hoping that we can hear some of the viewpoints from the mom who shared with us. And you could call in and ask us questions. Let's talk about what can be done. Where do we go from here?
Okay, we don't have a lot of time left,
Okay.
but let me see whether or not I can ask one or two questions which perhaps maybe an average person may ask. Now, I understand some of the areas you're focusing on. We understand their objective. What are some of the issues that you find, or the difficulties or the challenges in getting to where you want to go? Do I sense that one of it is maybe it's too costly for the parents, notwithstanding you argue that it is very reasonable, because there's a general view, it may be false, that eating healthy is more expensive.
Well, eating healthy is more expensive. It's a fact, but we do have to place the importance on. We have to, so to speak, budget. Where do we place the most importance on? Do we place on eating healthy or a lifestyle that might be that might require more funds? So we do have to weigh where we place the emphasis in our lives and in our pocket. But in terms of the school meals program, we are heavily supported by the community. We have Four Seasons Resort, the Homeowners Foundation that supports and subsidizes children for Charleston Primary School. And we have other businesses, and we encourage other businesses to come on board and adopt schools and just support children within that school that's within their community. But to feed a child on the school meals program actually only costs $1,000 for the entire year. So the entire year is $1,000. If we have more businesses coming on and supporting the children, as was suggested by Chef Henville, that we then we'll have a more.
Okay, so
Parents.
the cost in your view, because you know the cost of the items, $1,000 doesn't seem a lot when in terms of the value. But the question is, though, in terms of reality, do you still get a pushback from some of the parents that it's still costly? Is that a challenge?
That is a challenge.
It is.
That is
okay.
a big
So you have that as a
challenge.
challenge.
But even for the because some months it's charged $100, and some months, depending on how the days fall, is actually $125, and we get major pushback for that $125
Okay,
as opposed to
and you think perhaps you have that challenge, not so much that the $125 may not be available, but could it be priorities at home? For instance, that child that has difficulty in the parents paying $125, the shoes that they're wearing may cost $500. Do you have those sort of challenges?
Yes, sir. We have those challenges concerning where our priority lies. Because when you think of buying healthy foods, even though it's more expensive to buy insulin. It's more expensive to buy treatment for cancer if you're 10 years later or 15 years later.
But then we have to convince people, though, to look that far.
Yes, and that's why we have researchers such as those from McGill come in and put in the figures to what we know, because we know unhealthy living or unhealthy eating will produce bad health or ill health in the future, which will cost us more. But sometimes I guess we need that research to back up what we do know, and we need to be more convincing. As
The Caribbean people
as
do a lot of things willingly, or do they have to be pushed? A lot of things that
I think they have to be pushed sometimes.
they have to be pushed.
Yeah. Yeah.
So as you fight this battle, so to speak, and you're trying to emphasize what is healthy, and I see that you're doing it from the school point of view. Now, you're given one meal per day?
One.
Okay. What if everybody comes on board, a good percentage, and they take the 1 meal per day. Chef, how is that going to factor in the overall food intake and the benefits per child?
Well,
Will the 1 meal per day work, or do we have to complement it at home with the other meals?
Right. If everyone, like we said, comes on board and we have 100% participation into the school meals program for lunch, we hope that can trickle into the home meals, and then reaching out to the parents more, and the food education and nutrition education.
So that has to come in.
Yes. Yeah.
So the 1 meal and just doing it at school wouldn't do it.
We need the parents.
You
We
need-
need the
yes,
parents
mhm.
involved. Yeah, because they saying what my parents and parents told me was everything starts at the home.
Yes.
Right. So if they
But some parents, though, feel that it must start at the school.
some feel that way.
That's. But
No,
let me
yeah,
ask the
you're right.
researchers: do we find that? Because a lot of times it's a chicken and egg situation.
Right, right.
The parents are hoping that the teachers will maybe teach them manners, and the teachers are saying, no, you're supposed to start at home. Researchers, how do we find that?
I think you raise a good point that for some in the past, I think homes and households have given up some roles up to the school. But the role of nutrition education, the role of being willing to experiment and try new things, the eating vegetables is one of those habits that while the school will model what a healthy plate looks like, will model that for the child. Like I mentioned, that child could not eat those vegetables at every time it's put in front of them and throw it away, because at home they are not accustomed to doing it.
Okay, let me go through this parent, and you can not only weigh in on your experience, but you speak to other parents and find out what their challenges are.
Yeah. Yes, I do. Well, for the ones that are not participating, some of them, of course, have excuses. Some of the excuses would be my child maybe doesn't eat dairy products or different things because maybe they're allergic to something, or my child doesn't eat maybe rice, or they eat particular things. But I find it very affordable, because if you go to any restaurant in town, you can find no meal for $5.
You think that when they give these reasons, it has anything to do with stigma, that maybe I don't want my child to appear to be on the school program?
Well, I haven't really met those ones, because at least the ones I've interacted with, they're proud to have their children on the school meal program. So only like 1 or 2 who are off the program, and for some medical reasons, that's what they give. But otherwise, the ones I've met, they're proud to be on the school
chef
program.
Told a little story about someone he met,
Yes.
and how they were so encouraged to learn very quickly how to make some. Do we have any issues with being able to prepare the meals?
As a matter of fact, when he started demonstrating, we were very proud, because it was very easy. And first of all, it's not time consuming, and at the same time, you use the things that are available to you. You don't have to use expensive ingredients. You use what's in your backyard garden. You use what is at your disposal, but how to use it. Because sometimes we have the things, but we don't know how to use them.
Right.
So he demonstrated for us how to use, instead of buying ketchup, why don't you use your tomatoes?
Okay, so
Put them in the
instead
oven.
of buying ketchup,
Yes.
how much of it, not everybody has the courage to ask this question.
Yes.
How much of it is laziness?
Oh, it's a lot of laziness.
A lot of
A lot of it, we become more become busy. As,
Yeah.
become
So that's
professionals, I guess.
a more politically correct way of saying it.
Yes, yes. We tend not to be as active, to Mr. Urban, and that's one of the issues with becoming unhealthy as we age,
Yeah.
because we're not as active.
We've
So all the sugar, we don't burn off that sugar, we don't burn off the fat, and all those things that would be easily burned off if we were active. And so now we're seeing that our children are getting these diseases at 16 and 17 rather than 60 and 70 and 80. So we have to change. If we don't change, our children would be sick. We have to do something differently. And that requires time, and that requires effort.
Yeah.
It requires effort. So in terms of being lazy, we cannot be lazy when it comes to our children's health. And everyone wants their children to have a brighter future and to be healthy. There's no parent that I know that wants their children to be sick all the time or to develop cancer at 22 when they're supposed to be starting their careers, when they're supposed to be married and all these other things. So parents, we are appealing to you. We can't have a laissez-faire approach to the health of our children towards the meals that we're serving our children. So we have to be active.
Let's go to the researchers. When you do your research, not just in Nevis, but across the Caribbean, are people persuaded that, I get it that it has been said, it has been broadcast and so on, and a lot of speeches and so on, but are people persuaded that not eating healthy really cause these ailments?
I'm sorry to say that while they might be persuaded, there is a consciousness that is lacking, where people believe that eating unhealthy has status with it. So the ability to take your child to buy these things that are unhealthy, doing it somehow, there's status ascribed to it. So now it has become a thing to do, even though it is to the detriment in the long term of the child. So I think that is part of the challenge, that the thing is unhealthy, but somehow that you look good giving it to your child, and your child wants it. So that's one problem. The second one is, a lot of the time when we go to parents and we say, this is a problem, there's only so much, your child needs so much vegetables, the portions for vegetables are quite greater than the amount of, they say, starches or protein. Parents feel like you're trying to impose on them a change that takes away something good from the plate for their child. So if they're accustomed giving the child a large amount of protein and a large amount of carbohydrates, you saying don't do it for them is like you're taking away a good thing. And I think once that is in the head, which is not true, this is just the feeling, then the result is that they resist and there's a pushback. So if I could speak about the Photo Voice project that we ran at the Charlestown Primary School, and we're going to run again in 2020 in January, what the mothers were able to do was really go through their week and take pictures of all the things that helped them to eat healthy or the things that did not help them to eat healthy. And through that process, instead of somebody giving them big speeches, and I had no great speeches to give, let me tell you, they got seeds at the beginning, so those who were of a mind to planted those seeds in their backyard gardens. They got the healthy cooking demo from the chef who showed them exactly what their children are getting in the school meals program, and the ways to incorporate these vegetables in ways that hide them so the children do not necessarily see them openly. And through that 10-week process, they got to reflect on what they do, because a lot of the time what we eat and what we buy is very unconscious. We do it automatically. It is what we have always done, and we continue doing it. But using the medium of photography and capturing what it is they're doing helped parents, I think, slow down and think about, is this healthy, is this not healthy? And when they came together, that reflection, that discussion helped them to see that this is not the best thing to do for my child. And the group pressure, that social pressure of them coming together, helped motivate them to do better, to do different. So it wasn't somebody preaching, it wasn't somebody pushing. it was they themselves reflecting on what they're doing and recognizing they needed to change. So the other combinations, the planting of the fresh foods, they got to do that in their backyard gardens, the seeing how they could do it differently, in small ways, no huge change. And I think the addition of a bit of nutrition education, because we also had Renelle sharing on different things that could be done, that education component. When you put those four together, reflexivity, nutrition, education, learning, seeing healthy food demos, as well as the group coming together weekly, change was almost inevitable. And that's what the research tells us, that this is another way of trying to get people to change their eating habits by not necessarily preaching.
About what time period have we been doing this, doing some research, some studies and so on to find out what are the reasons why we're not making progress here, etc., etc. So about what time period are we talking about, and what has been, well, sometimes change is slow, but so what has been the success rate?
Well, the research project started, the one McGill started here in Nevis with the school feeding program. It was started when I arrived, I think, around the 15th of May, during the summer. And that was, we did some initial preparation with working with stakeholders like the Charleston Primary School, the school meals coordinator, the chef, the parents. So that was maybe the initial start of the process. But it is an ongoing process, because this is not, like you mentioned, this is not a fast, this is not a fast activity. We slowly got here.
Yes.
And we need to unpack, unravel, and reform what we do. Create new practices, new activities to get us to where we want to go.
So it's going forward, it's going to take a little time, right? To get habits to change,
Yes.
Right.
people to understand,
Yes.
budgets to vary, priorities to reorganize,
Yes.
and so on.
Yes.
Yes.
And in
Okay.
that meantime, we have the school meals program, which provides that healthy meal.
There you go.
Yes.
Right.
Until
But
we
let me ask this.
Yeah.
What if, not just Nevis, so let's put it across the islands, what if we were to do the school meals program and do it free of cost? You think we'll have a better reception from the parents, and as a consequence, and a faster means for success?
Well-
Because if one of the inhibitors might well be the cost, regardless to how small it may be, you know?
Yeah.
What if it were free? You think it will be a plus, or on the other hand, you may have wastage, etc., because sometimes people argue when people have to pay for something, it's
Well, we have models that we can, we have other islands that have it free of cost. Like our sister island, St. Kitts, has it free of cost. And the quality of the meal in Nevis, although we pay, it's, the quality of the meal is very high because we pay that, we pay into it. And somehow things that are always free isn't, the quality decreases. I'm not sure how else to put that, but because we pay a cost, because there's a cost associated to our school meals, the quality goes up significantly. If we were to make our school meals free, I propose that the quality will go down. The ingredients that we source, it may be more difficult to source the high quality ingredients that we need for the school meals program. And so the school meals program is heavily subsidized by our government and by our taxpayers. So that small cost helps to ensure the quality stays high. Making it free of cost may well jeopardize the quality of the meals.
I might extend the debate when the heavyweights come in to sit on that point.
Yeah.
But let me just go around the table and give everybody an opportunity to make a final comment.
I want to agree with Renelle I don't think having it free would improve it. I think the community support in that $5 contribution is really a recognition of its value. And it also gives the community a voice. Because when you pay, when you put money into something, you recognize, one, that you are making a contribution, and you have the understanding that it is important. I think paying is what makes this program strong compared to the rest across the region. And my final word is, we're going to continue and try and have a pair-led photo voice session starting in January at the Charlestown Primary School. And we encourage all mothers, if you think you could improve, if you think there's an area where you could help better understand what vegetables your children could eat and ways to healthily eat them, I encourage you to join us at the Charlestown Primary School early in January. You'll be getting some promo vids that tell you a bit more about it. So plan to join, plan to be involved.
And then for those that are not currently on the school meals program, I encourage you to at least try the school meals program for a term. Because you pay into the school meals program, that means you hold us accountable for the monies that you give to us, and that means I cannot lapse. The Chef Henville can't lapse with his the recipes that he comes up with. So I encourage you to try the school meals program if you haven't tried it as yet. The school meals program is constantly going through changes. We're constantly trying to add healthy snacks, like we started adding the popsicles from the agro-processing department, and there are different things that we're trying throughout the year and throughout the term to expose our children to healthier ways of eating and to a healthier way of living, making it a lifestyle. So I encourage you to participate in the school meals program.
I want to say that I understand it's extremely hard to break a cycle, especially of unhealthy eating habits. And if you ever feel curious on what you can do, or you don't even know where to start, because it is hard to understand the importance of healthy eating if you never had that exposure. So there's a lot of people in the community, from principals, the chefs, the cooks, Renell, even other parents who are involved, any persons involved in the school feeding program in the schools. They are happy to give you more information on how to eat healthier. Even farmers, they encourage young people to understand where their food comes from, because I know that a lot of schools incorporated school farms. And it's really helping children to make another cycle on knowing the importance of healthy foods. For instance, St. James will have the one tire per child program with the One Love group. So it's just getting children exposure to what they can grow in their soils and how what they grow can help them in their future and help their livelihoods.
And I just wanted to say also thank you to Mr. Herbert for having us for this program. I hope thousands upon thousands are listening to our voices tonight. But just to touch on what Ms. Daniel said, was we really need all the parents behind us. We can't do this without you. This is for your children. This is for the growth and the health of Nevis for the future. So please, moms and dads, guardians, please feel free to contact any one of us. We're all here if you need anything. All the ladies out at the health promotion unit, Renell's up at the education. I'm all over the place at the different schools, but I'm sure no problem, just leave a message from me at any one of the schools and they can get a hold of me. But please, we need you guys on board, because this is for Nevis and this is for our future.
They say charity begins at home, and I appeal to all guardians, mothers, fathers. If you can start it at home, then it will be a good habit. We can always have good habits and build onto them. If you get good habits of always like drinking water, you'll not have problems of being told to drink water, because Mommy taught you to do that. And if you learn how to grow things in the backyard and know how to harvest them, know how to eat your fruits, then nobody is going to force you to eat the fruits. So we can start it from home, however small it is. It might be on your side. It could even be in a container. You can grow something in the container and your children can enjoy it. Once they love it and it's fun and becomes a good habit, then you won't have problems in future trying to straighten up a bent tree, because from the start you were able to train up the child on how to be healthy and live healthy. Because we know if you're healthy, then you won't have to spend a lot going to the doctor, or you will not even have to see the doctor, because if you're healthy and you're eating healthy, then you will just stay healthy. So I encourage everybody to keep healthy and practice the good habits of staying healthy.
Very good. Thank you. Oh, thank you.
Renel Daniel, Michael Hendel, Sandra Huggins, Oasia Fair, and Dr. Arlette St. Ville. That's the panel. We thank them very much for being here this evening. We encourage you to eat healthy. The second segment of the program is coming up next. The heavyweights will be in. Thank you all again for being a part of this first segment.
Builders Paradise is offering a large variety of floor and wall tiles at very competitive prices. We've got over 2 million pieces in stock, lots of different styles to choose from. Whether you're renovating or tiling a new house, Builders Paradise has what you need. Oh, and remember, we're open all day Saturday to serve you better. Call them today at 466-4938.
When VON vibrates, the whole Caribbean must shake.
860 AM, the Powerhouse.
Back in this episode of Thought That Get Results, we'll be back with, we now begin the second segment of the program, just reminding you that we were speaking about eating healthy in the school meals program in not only Nevis, but across the islands. We featured Renel Daniel, who is a school meals coordinator here in Nevis. Michael Henville is a national school meals chef. Sandra Huggins is a parent. Ocasia Fair is a researcher at the McGill University, and Dr. Arlette St. Ville, researcher also at the McGill University. The second segment, Dr. Patricia Bartlett, good evening.
Good evening, Rebo. Good evening to my fellow panelists. Good evening to the entire listening and viewing audiences tonight. It's a pleasure being here. Thanks for the invitation.
Conrad Naya Liebert, good evening.
Good evening, Rebel, and once again, good evening to your hard working staff here at Von Radio. I'm happy to be here, Rebel, and I think the previous discussion was of great importance to the part to a healthy nation. Rebel, I'm happy to be here. Thank you for having me.
Edric W. Stanley, good evening.
Good evening, Rebel. Good evening to my fellow panelists. Good evening to the people of St. Kitts, and more particularly our gracious people of Nevis, those who continue to listen to us on the World Wide Web, Facebook and YouTube. And we are hoping that what we say this evening would be able to carry us upward and onward as a nation and peoples. The people that, or the group you had on, I think, was rather informative, and sometimes we listen attentively. Now, some people are fully aware of some of the universities that they've mentioned, like based on the information came out. Cambridge, that is a popular university, but I'm certain not very many people have heard of McGill, which is in Canada. That's a university out of Canada. Of course, they mentioned the University of the West Indies and Oxford. But at the same time, the program, in my view, seemingly, was a good program. The food program in schools is not new, because I remember when we were going to primary school, the government made an effort to give to us a little milk in the morning, and would you believe it was of great help, because many of us never had a meal before we left home. But they've now expanded it into a quality program to the extent where they've got a chef associated with it, a trained chef. And based on what I understood and heard, it means that the program is upward and onward going to the extent where the children are benefiting. I'm hoping that Chef Henville could use some of our local vegetables, even the breadfruit, to make some of the chips that we eat. And they're complaining about obesity, and of course attributed that obesity to some of the imported chips that are causing some of the problems. And with his creativity and the help of, I guess, the government and the Department of Health, things can be initiated to the extent where not only the meals but also some of those chips that I've mentioned can be made to the extent where the factor of obesity can be reduced. At the same time, it is food management. And the people who are involved now seemingly have done researches to the extent where they're able to prepare meals much better in terms of quality and quantity. Thus, our children are eating healthier, which ultimately leads to a healthier community. And once we have a healthier community with people, the rate of productivity in the long run would be quite far-reaching and worthwhile. And sometimes we have to monetize the entire process. Of course, they brought about the $5 per, I guess it is per child or per parent in the schools. Well, and they have urged quite a number of parents to come on board to enhance the program and to keep the program expanded, and to the extent where there will be greater participation. So we must begin to give them the encouragement so that our children can be more healthy and ultimately grow into healthy adults. So, more power to them, Weber. And I would say those entities that are participating, they mentioned some of the business community, I think businesses in the community that are participating in the school feeding program. Therefore, we are hoping that more would participate, and again to expand the program and to make it more worthwhile. However, we are here.
Well, the interesting part for me is the fact that they're starting in the schools, to try to get the kids to eat healthier. But the reality is, if we don't start in the homes, it probably would not really translate to the kind of outcome that we would like. What I find, just from a casual observation, I've not done any research on it. What I find is that when kids have parents who eat healthy, they themselves eat healthy. That's why I think maybe you have so much wastage in the schools of the healthy meals that they're trying to, that someone I think had alluded to earlier. I have this niece, and I remember an experience with her. She lives in the States, and when she brought her kids, the kids didn't want any snack, like you're offering them something. Oh, no, we don't eat that, because they're so disciplined as it relates to eating, and they got that obviously from their mother. And you have a lot of mothers here who just do not eat healthy. And I don't know if maybe it's because it is really more expensive to eat healthy. But notwithstanding, I'm sure that we'll be able to get around it. But I think that when a woman becomes pregnant, that is the best opportune time, I think, to get her to start eating healthy and progress from there, because starting at, you have to start from the beginning. If you start in the middle, it's kind of more challenging. And I think that, maybe we're starting in the middle. But I wish them well, and I'm sure that the foundation has been laid, and I'm hoping that we can benefit, because really, when you look around, we have so many obese people in this place. I just don't understand how we feel comfortable, in the fact that we live in now. But I think it's a good effort in the schools, and I would like to applaud it.
I think it's a great effort myself, Dr. Bartlett and Mr. Stanley, starting in the school, starting with the youths. I wanted them to really show the nexus between eating healthy and one's ability in terms of the consequence or the results that is reflected in one academic achievement, because I'm sure there's such nexus, because this junk food that you eat sometimes. I can remember going to school. I was one who always conscious of eating healthy, being, most of the rastas are vegetarians, and don't eat this and don't eat that. Anyway, so, I was very, and when I used to go to school, what I used to realize that a lot of people who come back from lunch, they fall asleep in the afternoon. And I wasn't eating much in terms of lunch and heavy stuff. I used to eat a lot of fruits in the latter part of my secondary school days, but that was quite evident to me, that after lunch, half the class looked like they're falling asleep. So I'm saying that I wanted to hear the researchers make that connection, that nexus between eating healthy and the ability to absorb information. I suppose being more awake, you're more likely to learn more and take in more. And then there is some food that would act on the brain. A lot of people are not aware of that, but of course the scientists and those who involved in nutrition and the nutritionists would make would have a lot to say about that. But I've been told, I've got a friend who is deeply involved in this nutrition thing. Sometimes it's too much, but yes, and yes, she can make those connections. So it's very important if we are thinking about a healthier nation, a more reactive and positive thinking people, less stress on our health facility, and of course, and to debunk that stats that they say that every Caribbean individual after reaching the age of 65 would have either diabetes, hypertension, or something like that. We want to see that we remove from the expectations of the world or those who have conducted these studies. A healthy nation is a wealthy nation, and of course it's not just talking about it, is actually practicing that lifestyle. Because I had kids and some of them was vegetarian from birth, and the things they used to do coming up, they used to literally go into people's gardens and just pick lettuce, and of course we had to warn them about that because of the chemical use. That's another concern in terms of the food we produce and what we use to produce high quality food, the chemical use in producing these food, and of course the preparedness of these food to reach the consumer is very important, because there's a lot of things being used these days, and that's why there's quite a big trend about organic. Everybody's saying they're eating organic food, organic vegetable, organic pork, organic everything. Sometimes they take it a bit too far, really. But, yes, the consciousness is very important, but one have to be sensitive in working with the people who are not really inclined with that type of taste. It takes time, as the researchers said, but we got to, I would like to use the word enforce it, because it, there's a lot of benefit in a general sense, not just for the individual, but for the nation as a whole. So good topic, good discussion. And yes, $5. But what does happen sometimes? Even if it was $2, you'll find parents having problem to pay it because it's the school, innit? I mean, maybe if they was preparing to go to a show or a dance or something, all the money would be in place a long time. But they take the school and the government sometimes for granted, So even $2, some parents would have problems in paying that. I think $5 is reasonable, and I think that to me is a lower cost than anything that the parent can do for the kid as it relates to a lunch in school or anything he or she can prepare for the kid. So $5 is okay. I understand in St. Kitts it's free. Don't know why. Same country. I guess it's 2 different education departments. But we'll work with that. Keep the standards high. $5 is good enough.
Well, it is interesting, because I promise the panel that I probably might extend that particular area. And first of all, the way they're going about it is in a scientific way, doing the research and trying to find out why people do this and why they don't do this and so on. And, I think it was Dr. Bartlett who might have, I'm not sure, but somebody made a reference to basically supporting the schools program and so on and so forth. But you continue to have an issue as to who's responsible for what, because we heard them basically appealing to the parents to work along with them and help them to encourage the kids to eat their vegetables, etc., etc. Well, you can host a debate in terms of, it seems to me, is it not that they left home and went to school? You see, so you begin to have that in terms of the weight of the responsibility.
Yeah, definitely. I personally think it should begin at home. It would be more effective because children model, what they see for the most part. If they grew up in a household that didn't really indulge in too much of the fast foods, you find that kids tend to be a little more disciplined in terms of their food choices when they go out.
But from a practical standpoint, Dr. Bartlett, though, do we not sometimes have it reverse, where a lot of the times, because sometimes, in growing up, maybe we might argue maybe the parents didn't know, and so they're hoping that they will get it at school.
Yes, but I'm hoping, like I said, they still have to be practical, because when you're at home, you have to insist. Because I remember when we were growing up, certain foods we didn't really want to eat, and if you didn't eat it, you know the consequences. You couldn't waste food, but still, if you didn't like cornmeal, you would find a way of just slipping it into someone else's plate, or you'll throw it behind your back or something like that. In school, you're not monitored that closely, though. So if you didn't come from home, with that understanding that this is good for you, you ought to eat it. Your teacher can say what teacher likes, but, most of the times I personally don't find, that, because I've seen it. I've seen mothers who just eat rice and chicken, and so the children just eat rice and chicken. Maybe because vegetables are not cheap, mind you. Vegetables are not cheap. Maybe that is what they can afford. Not everybody can afford, to have vegetables to waste, and if the kid's not going to eat it, then they're not going to push it because it's expensive.
And with that point, it led me to ask or interject the question of, as you say, affordability, interject the question of priority. So is it that you really cannot afford, or you have prioritized the healthy eating or the vegetables out.
That may be the case. I don't know it for a fact. But I'm waiting anxiously to see what the results would have been, because I think the poverty assessment was supposed to be done, and I think the field work would have been done already, so I'm waiting to see. But we had like 21% poverty rate in 2009, and I don't know it is that people necessarily prioritize. I mean, maybe they do, but I don't know if that really is the overriding factor here.
But you see, with that same study again, Dr. Bartlett, it'll be interesting to study the study, because I remember, and I probably tell this story before when we were discussing this thing maybe a few years ago, that I know a strong, healthy, well-off gentleman who participated in the study and skewed his answers in the hope that he will come across pitiful and then get some sort of handout. And so you wonder, maybe that's just a sort of off case.
I would imagine so.
But so you wonder sometimes how accurate and information we are getting based on those kind of things. Because again, the priority, because when people depend on the questions, they answer these questions. Is it that they didn't have the money to buy vegetables, or they would rather buy the Nike? Because I think the panel indicated it. They rather buy the Nike so that their children look a certain way to be in a certain category. So in my view, it was very interesting information being imparted, and especially the fact that they're doing research and the studies in it, I thought it was interesting.
Well, we must clearly understand that everything that winds up to be good requires a certain degree of discipline. And if you're not disciplined with regard to what you're eating or preparing to eat, ultimately things are not going to wind up right. I mean, I was over at the Marriott this morning, and part of the conversation was that if you were to look at some of the waitresses, unfortunately, they were quite hefty. So one of our members mentioned, well, they've been here for the past maybe 15, 20 years, and maybe every day. They ate what was prepared, and in that regard, there is an accumulation of fat, and if they have no way of reducing that fat, it means that they will continue to get bigger and bigger. Sure, with vegetables, not very many people like vegetables, but all people must be inculcated with the idea that even though you don't like it, you must look at the benefits you get from it. Just the other day, a lady saw me and she asked me to buy some spinach. And I said, sure, I would buy spinach. And I actually incorporated it into my fish and fungi, and it tasted really good. I ate it raw, just as it is. But knowing the health benefits that I will derive from it, I actually asked for more. All people have enough space to plant their own little backyard garden, and in that they could grow tomatoes, spinach, cabbage, lettuce, and the whole 9 yards, rather than going to the store and buying it. If it's not available at the store and you have it in your backyard garden, it is less costly, in my view. It takes some sweat equity, time, effort, and focus to put it in place to, in fact, derive the benefit from it.
But you know, the
clothing
obesity...
I wore today, I wore it 35 years ago. It still fit me. And the reason for that is that I have put a price tag on being healthy. I've monetized it. And I told people, of course, I don't go to doctors very often. Only if there's something that I can't figure out, I will go to the doctor. But I don't like to be sick. And as a consequence, I have a magnitude of bush or herbal stuff.
What you just said about 35 years ago?
Clothing that I wore 35 years ago still fit me. That's a fact, Webber.
You mean you just take them up sometime and try them on to see if they fit you?
No, Webber.
You still wear them regularly?
I still wear them. I wore a suit as it gets today, and
So
it was the suit that I
you're
wore
not
to
going to
the
tell me that
Ronald Reagan's.
the same clothes that you were dating the most beautiful girl in Nevis with, you still have them?
Yep.
Well,
You're not going to tell me that?
let's not go there because
Okay, you're not.
you know that, of course, when you make a comparison, it's a different
So
dynamic.
you don't have those clothes?
Not those, but upon leaving here and able to acquire nice clothing, quality clothing.
Oh,
clothing that would last.
those days the clothing were not nice.
Well, listen, we know exactly once you get what we used to call a nobody. It came from abroad and it came in with a certain quality.
Let's
And
go.
now,
Okay, go back to your
let's go
point.
back to what we
Let's
were.
come off of that.
Yes. And therefore, I'm just saying to you that you have to look at our own physical stature and make a determination as to what it would cost to be sick. And if you don't eat right, it means you're going to get sick. And with that, you have to expend a certain amount of money in order to get well. So the program tonight, geared toward the children of this particular generation, might pay dividends or should pay dividends if we are able to get into them the information and they are able to follow through with the practicality of the implementation of what was disseminated here this evening. And ultimately, the cost will be lower, they will be healthier, and again, have a better lifestyle, nation of healthy people, and they become far more productive once we are healthy. So, to the parents, guardians, and those of us in our community, begin to pay attention to what we are eating, and ultimately, we will have a healthier and a wealthier nation.
Well, just an observation that I wanted to make before you move on to something else. The thing is, it's all right to say to people that they must be eating healthy, but we need to be more active as well, because I think that was one of the issues that they would have, skirted a little bit around tonight, in that obesity is not just that you're consuming the wrong things, but you're being so sedentary, just sitting down in front of the TV or whatever. It was interesting when Stanley said that you can plant stuff in the backyard, because what I find so interesting in our people nowadays is that we've become so glued to technology that we're doing things like we're planting things on the web. We're doing Farmville. We're farming on, we're doing virtual farming. So we don't have time for the actual farming. I hear people running, oh, I have to do something about some crop that they're doing, this Farmville thing. And I'm like, why not do the actual farming, but that is where our people are going. But I think that the health promotion unit, I think they're very active. And if people just pay attention, because they're always there, they're in your face, they always have something going and they're always promoting good, healthy lifestyle. And I think that we need to, support, the health promotion unit. And all of us ought to get engaged in not only eating healthy, but we need to get more active. Because Naya was trying to make the connection or the nexus, like he claims, between how you eat and the things that you eat and, how you perform in schools. But the thing is, you have to exercise as well, because I remember when I was going to school, I was a brilliant girl when I was going to school. You might not believe that. But I was very active. And then, of course, my father was a fisherman. So I ate a lot of fish. And was kind of, didn't want people to see me eating fish. But that's what I had to have for lunch. I used to take fish to school and I had to eat it. But we need to eat well. And, I don't think that we can, say that enough. We need to start eating healthy. And healthy eating if the parents start eating healthy, I think that the kids likewise would get there.
But I think there also is an important point, and you also raise a point of technology. So what happens is people are trying to move with the times, and one of the things that was mentioned was laziness. And it's easier to pop open a tin of carrots and heat that up than to peel, the organic carrots and get the water, boil them, and, maybe one don't even know how to boil carrots, you know what I'm saying, or something like that. So it comes down to what is easier, and it comes down, in some instances, to laziness. And you know this thing, inertia, right?
Yep.
So it is an interesting challenge. And the other thing that I put forth was what happens in terms of cost. And if it is something that you feel is very good and very productive, and you prioritize, because one will argue that while the government or the institutions or whoever put in monies and funding it and so on and so forth, to the current degree, well, if you prioritize and argue that, on the other hand, the government wastes a lot of money otherwise, so what if you prioritize, put some of that wastage into that program, then give it for free? What will happen? You think it will get more people on, we'll get to our goal more speedily, what?
Where is the wastage, you say, Webo?
Where is the wastage?
I know that we waste a lot of food.
No, he was
But I
talking
thought
about
you meant-
government.
but I was
spending.
trying to get from you the government and wasting. I didn't get it too clearly. So
You didn't get what too clearly, if that's what I said?
But just go back over it if you can. If you don't want to, that's all right.
He said that government don't waste money on other things, and maybe they should divert that kind of money that they're wasting on those things that they don't need to waste money on, and they channel it to the food, the school feeding program. Maybe that might be a better use of the resources. I think that I'm being presumptuous here, but I think that
Thank you, Dr.
is
Badley.
what he wanted to say. But you won't be able to see the wastage, maybe, because maybe you're not so close to it. But we see it all the time. And I don't want to influence Naya to say that he does it.
No, but I think that yes, more people would come on the program if you don't have to pay anything. But Webo, I think taste is something you can nurture. I believe it doesn't just come like that, and that's why dealing with the youth is the best way. Remember, Webo, the way we eat was greatly influenced by our history and the circumstance surrounding that era of our, existence. I mean,
The way we used to eat, because the way we eat now is not influenced by our history. The way we eat now is influenced more by our desire to get into certain circles.
Yes, because our taste has been nurtured to like certain things, which is bad for us, basically. And back in the days, of course, they didn't care about our health in any big way. So, things we used to practice should come to the fore today and be realized, forced to realize that it ain't no good no more. And really, the kids must not be introduced, and their taste buds must not be nurtured to like such things. But you know, Weber, what is interesting, because sometimes you as a parent have kids and you bring them up very strict vegetarians and so forth, and soon as they move from under you,
choice,
they want to experience, they want to experiment, you know.
And the
they get into
persuasion
this
is there.
Fast food, and there's no turning back, man. There's no turning back, you know, because the researchers said that it's more socially acceptable.
And the power of persuasion,
and
the
this is
advertising, and all these things. Yeah.
Because as a kid, I could remember when we went Mount Street to debate. I was in sixth form, and I said to them there after the debates, they were having a little party, doing the barbecue, you know. And I said to them, "Sorry, I don't eat chicken." Well, it was like the worst thing I have said. They make a big thing about it. And when we get back here in Nevis, the first thing the teacher that went with us tell the people awaiting us, Naya said he's a vegetarian. And they're just laughing at me and makes me feel like, really make me feel bad.
Peer pressure.
And so, yes, I'm saying that to say it is a kind of social thing. It's sometimes socially acceptable to find yourself in the line down in McDonald's more than to say, well, up at Island Life, we're advocating a healthy lifestyle. I mean, look at the bowl. You know how much chicken and so come over from? Is McDonald's the place, do you think it's? KFC, sorry, I apologize. Yes, and people buy bucket loads, you know, and it's almost like a style, and they're posing off with it coming up on the boat, you know, bucket loads. And so, yes, it's very important, you know, there's a stigma sometimes, you know, for me it's very light, for some it's very heavy, about eating right, eating yard ground food, you know. So there's a lot to change, there's a lot to work on when it comes to the kids. But at the end of the day, Webo, you know, everybody has the right to eat what they want to eat. So you can only try your best.
It's measured in the end results. And the end result is causing us a lot of pain now, and as a result everybody is attempting, well, the Health Promotion Unit and the Department of Health, they are attempting to give some guidance as to how we should eat and what we should eat, and even to take time out to jog, which I'm not really a proponent of jogging. I just believe if you eat right, you will stay right. I told people I've done my jogging as a boy, looking after my animals, and therefore I see no reason to go jogging. I mean, I've known people, one gentleman, they found him dead over on Long Point Road, jogging.
Because he was
you understand me? And I just,
no, they find people sitting on.
As a consequence of that, you're not jogging.
Well, I'm just saying that you have to.
Let me take this. Good evening. Thank you for holding.
Right.
Hello. Good evening. Thank you for holding.
Hello.
Yes, you're on the air.
Oh, sorry, but I'm trying to get my phone working.
You're trying.
I have to be careful with the people who say you must eat right and things and whatever. I agree with you that maybe them to potatoes and to yam and to very food that would eating, right? Hello?
Yes, go ahead. Go ahead.
Hello?
Yes, we're hearing you. Could you go ahead?
Maybe the two little yam and spaniel. I now see that there is a number of recommendations for eating and not eating. It looks to me that after a while now at home, and I have to say to all my grandchildren, if you people don't want to eat this, don't eat that, you're hungry, so you eat that at all. And so you want to be able to eat, put a little carbohydrates in your body and eat. I think a doctor told me that you must do all things moderately. And sometimes you say exclude this, exclude that, exclude the other. But you need a little bit of salt in your body, you need a little bit of sugar, a lot of sugar too, and you need a little bit of carbohydrates and certain things that people just say that you can eat. Just say, if you are growing up, you need a little grease under your skin to give you a little energy if you put it in the place food. So I endorse the eating right habit, but please eat it. Because it appears to me that everybody is saying, not that. And if you don't be careful, you're not anything at all.
Yeah. Your grandmother told you not to go sleep hungry?
Yeah, because
Why?
you might wake up.
Yeah, that's a light moment. Thanks,
All
Mark.
right, cool.
Right.
Well, I heard the caller mention salt. To be honest, if you don't use salt and sugar, you wouldn't miss it. There is some association with your brain and your taste, as the case might be, that addicts us to salt and sugar. But if you decide to drink your herbal tea without sugar, you would acquire the taste.
But all of it is
Without sugar
all of it is by habit and being introduced, because when people were born, the only taste they knew was the mother's milk.
True.
And then they were introduced to certain things. So if you take a few babies and you start them with the mother's milk, and then you never, by the age of 5 or 10, give them any corn curls and give them any of this and that, they will not, they know nothing about it, because they've not been introduced to it, so the taste don't develop it, etc. So they work with what they've been accustomed to.
Yeah.
So it is a matter of habit.
Well, I'm just trying to say that the caller mentioned salt, and I'm trying to propel the argument that you don't really need to use sodium in your food. You would not miss it if you decide to eat without sodium or salt.
Just go what the caller was saying.
That you need
salt,
it,
and
your
you
body
need salt
needs
in your
salt,
body.
yes,
That's what the caller was saying.
The
which is
body
true.
would find a way to survive
To get salt.
without
Without
that added sodium. There are people.
So
who-
if you
who
don't
become-
use salt, your body, which needs it, will find a way to get it.
Well-
That's what you're saying?
we get salt in so many different ways.
Now walk with me. If you do not use salt and your body needs it, according to Naya, that's the point you're making?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
You are saying, nevertheless, your body will find a way to get it.
You obviously have to eat certain fruits, certain vegetables which do have salt in them. All right. So ultimately, you will.
So
but
if you
don't
eat something,
don't add it, don't
walk
add
with
it.
me.
Don't add it.
Walk with me. If you eat something which has salt as part of its components, you are not using salt.
Obviously, you're using it. If
Okay.
But I'm saying to you, use it from the natural source.
Okay.
If it comes in a fruit or vegetable,
Okay.
then the body will sustain itself with what it acquires from that source.
But
or
when
those
you
sources.
use it otherwise,
Don't
like
add it to it. Don't add
why
salt to
does
your
nobody want me to talk? So I can finish the question?
food. You can finish the question, and I'll determine whether or not I'll come in afterward.
Right. So when you use it otherwise, it is not in its natural state.
No.
Okay.
I have a friend, and when we ate as young men, soon as he gets to, he doesn't know how much salt has been added to it, but first he grabs his salt shaker. And if you were to look at people, this is a habit.
What is in the salt shaker is not natural.
It is salt, it's natural, obviously,
Oh.
but you don't have to apply it to the food that is served to you.
But I thought you said you must use the salt in its natural state.
Which comes from fruits and vegetables.
But when it is in the salt
Shaker.
shaker, it is not natural.
It is it's a natural product, because where did it come from?
You can't. You're
It's a natural product, but you
You're
don't have to add to what is there.
Yeah, Stanley make a good point. Yeah, it's true. You can get your sodium from different things, and the thing is, it is the sodium that you really, have to be mindful of. It's not necessarily because salt is sodium chloride. Chloride is not the big issue. The sodium, is what the problem is, and you can get some, from some natural foods. Yes. You can get it from pork too. I mean, I don't eat pork, but different sources. It depends on how things are grown. Depends on, how things. But you can get salt from, or sodium from other sources.
I bet some people will argue that you can get the salt. Correct me if I'm wrong, Naya, because you can get almost everything you need for survival from the herb. So once you,
sense,
just say that's what I'm saying.
But don't get me wrong, we're in a general sense. I don't know where you're going.
I
see
I've arrived.
trying to say something. But no, in a general sense, I suppose you can get everything you want that the body needs from fruits, vegetables, herbs, and the natural vegetation of the world.
You can get most of
I
it.
do feel so.
But what's interesting though, like you said, it's sometimes it's a culture, because I don't want any tea without sugar. I apologize to anybody who I might offend, but my tea must have been sugar.
Well,
I went to England.
What about honey? No?
I said well, it must be sweet. That's my point. Well,
Okay,
can add
you
little honey.
see now.
But honey is expensive and it's not readily available. But I went to England and I don't want any prune in my tea. I went to England and I went to visit. Those are not things that I ordinarily would take with my tea. I want a little sugar in my tea. Like I said, I want my tea sweet. And we went, to this home. My husband and I, went to visit, some friends of his, and they offered tea, and everybody else, were taking sugar, and I was like, "Give me my sugar. I need 2 spoonfuls." But the thing is, then they pass in. What was so funny for me is that they're having their tea without sugar, but everybody has this. They cooked some cookies, a tin of cookies, and passing it around, and the cookies obviously has a lot of sugar in it. I'm like, okay, but I don't want any cookies. I just want my tea. Don't make me feel guilty that I want a little sugar in my tea. But it just comes down to, a lot of times the culture. And what I find sometimes we infuse, different cultures and stuff like that. We like to eat this, the Americans like the Kentucky Fried. And so we want to kind of emulate, we kind of like the lifestyle that comes with the American way of life, And then within recent times, I find we're not eating vegetables, but I've gone to some, functions that I'm seeing people eating sushi. I mean, I tasted the thing. It tastes like cardboard to me. I mean, and that is not something I would go for, But I'm like, okay, why are we eating sushi, but we're not eating vegetables? The natural vegetables that we are on. But like I said, sometimes we want to experiment with, different cultures and things like that. And we want to feel like we're up, and so we're eating sushi, Like, okay, but that's not my thing. But really, the food choices that we make, we have to do things, and the caller did make the valid point that we have to do things in moderation. There's nothing wrong with I don't think that there's anything wrong with having a little sugar. I don't think it's anything wrong with having a little salt. But the thing is when we overdo it and we're not active. We used to be active. The time when the caller made reference to a time when we used to eat 10 years because we used to produce it. We don't produce that now. And breadfruit and those kind of things. Of
They're
course,
available.
Those things, yeah, but those things are high in starch. You're talking about your sugar. You have to watch those things too. They're not because they're so natural that you can consume a lot of it. The problem we have now is that we're eating stuff and we're just not exercising. We have to have a balance. In life, you must balance things out. I could very well sit back and say, boy, I did enough running when I was younger because I used to be an athlete. I used to walk from Brownhill to school, to town for school every day. And walk back, we were active those days. So we used to eat some breadfruit and we eat yam, and because my daddy used to plant yams, so I ate enough of those things. And then somebody made a point about people feeling sleepy after they finish eating. It's just natural, physiologically. That's what happens because when you after you have a meal, then your body says, okay, send all the blood here. This is where the action is, and so the blood, drains from the other parts of your body and goes there. Black people ought not feel that it's something wrong with black people. It's not a black people disease. White people can have it. Well, let me not say white people, but some people would have, a siesta. Black people were never really accorded a siesta. So after they eat, they have a siesta, they go on the rest.
Okay, Dr. Martin, let me take this. I'll get back to you. Thank you for holding. Could you go ahead?
Good evening, Mr. Weber.
Yes.
Good evening to the panel. I'm just a while ago tuning. What the topic is all about tonight?
We were talking about the healthy eating and the school's meal program that they've been having operation and so on.
Oh, okay. That's the debate. Okay, well, I don't want to go off track tonight then. I will listen. Well, I don't want to disrupt the program, so if that is the debate tonight, I will hold it for next week, because there's a lot of things to talk about concerning the Jones case, concerning down in Thinkage where we made to understand the party is going to be using ZIZ, but the opposition cannot use ZIZ. A whole heap of things happening. So, but I don't want to go off track. So you guys continue your lovely program. I'll just continue listening. Have a lovely.
All right, thank you. Yes, go ahead.
Also, Webo, is because a lot of people say they're eating vegetables and they go down to Rams and the other places, not in particular Rams, all those supermarkets, yes, and they buy the carrots and everything else that's there. But Webo, a lot of these foods are genetically modified. We call them GM food.
GMOs.
Okay. Which is not all that good for you. It simply means they are not really in their natural state. They've been modified for whatever reason, in most cases maybe to produce more. That's a big issue out there, really, because I think Europe is the place that I understand have less genetically modified food. The whole of the US and Canada, and the seeds we buy, and sometimes we say we plant our own lettuce and all that. It is GM food, it is GM seed. So the health thing has seen a lot of crossroads, Webo, and sometimes a lot of people make a lot of money out of it, because people go online now and say they can cure cancer in 40 days, and of course people pay up. It's the whole health thing right now is such a money orientated. It's driven, in a big way by that. So people have to really learn a lot about particular ingredients and whatever the speciality is in these food and vegetables that we're supposed to be eating, so that we can deduce what is nourishing to us. As I said, there's particular food that works for memory. There are particular food that works for other faculties of the brain. These knowledge are important so that we can eat accordingly. But again, in the whole scheme of eating healthy and so forth, there's quite a lot of misinformation, and there's quite a lot of people who pull people in the dark and makes money off them. So real facts is very important. Real facts is very important. Just wanted to say that.
Well, of course, it depends on how you eat, what you eat, because ultimately it's a game of numbers. And when I look at some of my peers whom I went to primary school with, and those whom I grew up with in high school, Virgin Islands and whatever, wherever, college, whatever, some have gone. Why? And they are younger than I am when they actually left this side of life. And where I am still looking at what I eat, and I try to convey to people what they must do in order to continue to add and live a longer life, a healthier life, because it's there. And if for some reason you are eating something that is not healthy, the barometer or the lab, which is your body, which is a laboratory, it reacts and it tells you He speaks to you. And if you listen, you will be able to understand and take note and ultimately do the modification and bring about longevity. I again sometimes bring to the fore the lady who lived to be 107. I mean, I'm asking the good Lord to give me another 30 more in mine. And in that regard, He has given me the wisdom, the understanding, and the knowledge as to what I must do. On Saturday afternoon, I went into the Garden of Eden. And obviously, what I brought back will continue to help me go upward and onward in terms of the book of life. So when you begin to eat foods that are not good, your own physical laboratory will tell you that you have gone off the wrong end. Take note and modify. And if you do, you will be able to have the benefits. And then you can tell yourself, hey, I'm doing the right thing. If you don't, you will get ill, and ultimately, your life will end.
Well, all of us could die.
I mean, of course, that is inevitable. But again, it's the quality of life, Webo.
Yeah. And lifestyle choice is very important, because the thing is, you can be eating right, but if you're smoking, right, so we really have to have a holistic approach to our lifestyle, and what we want to do. It doesn't make any sense, for you to be eating right, but you're always stressing about money, or you're stressing about other things. We really have to cut out this, as well as we can, cut out the stresses in life. So Nevis is a good place to live because it is low stress. I'm just being facetious, Webo. But Webo, before we go, I mean, we have 10 minutes. Could we introduce anything? No? I just wanted to, because I know that we've been kind of critical about our participation or non-participation in the CSME, or we don't feel like we are as well informed as we could be, and we don't think that our government, is working on our behalf as well as they should be. But what I found interesting, and last week I wanted to bring it up, is that apparently there's a case before the CCJ now that was brought by CARICOM, trying to get some guidance as to the legitimacy of a decision that they would have made to exempt Antigua and St. Kitts and Nevis from a certain provision in the CSME that calls for you to open up to let the people come in. And now we're saying we don't want people who are security guards. That is the case that apparently St. Kitts and Nevis has made, along with Antigua. We don't want security guards and farm workers to come now, And I'm like, I thought that in particular, the farm workers, would have been people who, if we were going to, import people, then that would have been one category at least that we can make an allowance on, because let's face it, we are not doing any farming here as it relates to the people who Nevisians who are born here, and I think that maybe that is not something that we ought to go out. But like I said, apparently there's an exemption, and they've asked, so that I don't know for how long we've asked for that provision to be waived, so that we could, exclude these people from coming in to set up. And so I just thought that was something interesting, that they are working behind the scenes, but had it not been for that case, I wouldn't even realize that something was being done as it related to CSME and our position in that.
You see, I always found that interesting, and life is that way, because when they made the first rulings or agreements, and who they will include to allow to move first, right? And then you say, well, if you're of a certain standard of intelligence, for instance, you can move. And much people didn't argue against that. Perhaps because the people who made those decisions were of that same level of intelligence. You see, so that is why things like that in people in areas that they say they practice democracy, it's always good to have a good debate about it, and then you can see. So a lot of times too, even the very, sometimes you would hear people say, if you are a good sportsman in your country, you get certain preferences, etc., etc. And then the person who is an intellect, like Mr. Stanley, might feel he contributes heavily as well, but his area of contribution was not segmented off and say, well, if you make this level, then you will get so and so. So it's not a matter of whether or not they should or they shouldn't, but I think those kind of things need good debate, Dr. Bartlett. Otherwise, you will end up exactly, where you said that they are at the moment.
Well, documents, treaties, constitutions must be revisited simply because it is something that is dynamic, or there are documents that are dynamic based on population growth, the movement as the case might be, and all these dynamics come to play on these documents that were initiated 10, 15, 20, 30, 40, 50 years ago. And those people who actually formulated them should have had the wisdom to ensure that they must be revisited for clarification, addition, reduction, exclusion, inclusion, as the case may be. And therefore, that's why you have to have certain people, a certain level of thinking, to put these documents together, because we know.
Maybe that's why in the first case you end up where you are now, because there was certain level of thinking that when people went and put those documents together.
That's quite true.
Okay.
And therefore, the chickens are now coming home to roost. So, if they didn't put these things together
and have that level of people with that level of thinking, then you might not end up with that where you are now.
Well, quite true.
So then, so then maybe you have to now campaign that you cannot put too much.
Concretize. You cannot concrete.
No, you cannot put too much emphasis on those people with that high level of thinking.
But it doesn't mean that they were at their highest level or optimum level of thinking.
So.
No, but what is interesting though,
I'm saying to you that they must learn from this, that it doesn't come back to haunt them.
So in other words, they chose people who have a high level of thinking, but at the time of thinking, they were not thinking at their highest level.
It's very likely.
Okay. Dr. Bartlett, go ahead.
Well, obviously, you didn't have 11 million people, to consider, because at that point in time, I don't think that the Haitians were part of it, but they are now, and that is a consideration. What you're going to do if, at least 1% of the 11 million people who live in Haiti decide to move, and all they wanted to do was to be a security guard or a farm worker. But you do have revisions all the time of treaties, because we already had a revised treaty of, Chaguaramas already. So I don't understand why it was taken to the CCJ. I thought that, if you would revise it, and mind you, I'm not a legal scholar. I was just making a casual observation. Why they had to go there to get a ruling on it? Is it not time that we guys sit down, they sit around the table, because they're always, CARICOM heads are always meeting, and say that these are the issues that we need to maybe revisit and get a, a revision done, without having to go and move the court on it. But I like I said, it's just an observation that I would have made, so.
But does the CCJ decision stand in St. Kitts Nevis?
Well, the jurisdiction in which it is applied, I would imagine that, since we're all a part of...
I think Naya just asked $1 million question.
Well,
it's not incorporated. Adjust the Majesta sometimes. Maybe just experimenting with the experience.
Or maybe just doing passing certain treaties or agreements, knowing that by the time it will affect me, then I just, shift to something else.
Well, a certain degree of democracy had been implemented in these processes. And the CCJ, even though we had not signed on to it, is still considered
a legitimate
an institution.
course.
Yes, an institution that's supposed to serve the wider Caribbean.
Then answer Naya's question.
Well,
will you be binding on it?
The framers would have made a determination in that document as to whether or not it will be binding on those who have not signed on. And if they have not signed on, and it is written in the document that if you're not a signatory to it, then it would have no effect on you, meaning St. Kitts Nevis, if we are not a signatory to it.
I think that the question that was posed, though, to the CCJ was whether or not CARICOM had a right to grant the exemption to St. Kitts Nevis and Antigua. Because apparently they allowed us to, exclude security guards and farm workers.
And what if they didn't have a right? Then they will have to be bound by the rest of what the agreement was?
Well, I guess.
Well, maybe that.
But if that's the case, I would then argue I would not have signed it had I not been given that exemption. So if you're saying now that the exemption was not legal, you see what I'm saying? I say, well, okay, well, since I think because that's the reason why I signed it, because,
Well, of course, everybody, but that's just the point, that you have a right to go and revisit it, and if you decided, boy, things are not working out, Bahamas have said, categorically from the beginning that they're not going to participate on this free move with y'all, but they're still a part of CARICOM.
Well, it based on the jurisdictional authority of the institution. And if they have no authority, then somewhere along the line a decision must be made as to where the authority lies and who or which institution has the authority.
And where do you think it lies?
Sovereign countries, sovereign nation.
It cannot operate in a vacuum.
So you don't think there's something fishy about the whole thing?
Well, something obviously is fishy about it.
That's the last word. This program repeats tomorrow at 10 o'clock. Following the VON News Minute. Join the Honorable Mark Brantley tomorrow evening at 8 o'clock for On the Mark. Thank you all again for joining us. This is your voice in the community. Thought that get results. You all have a wonderful evening.
Views and opinions expressed on the preceding program were solely those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect the views of the